It's really disturbing what's happening now. Can we play the MSNBC or the NBC Chuck Todd audio? This is Chuck Todd. Now, I want you to listen how he sets this up, because he sets it up saying, well, this was incredible. You can't believe what he said.
I want you to listen to this Bill Barr answer to a question about what will history say about this. Wait till you hear this answer. Take a listen.
When history looks back on this decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
I was struck, Peggy, by the cynicism of the answer. It's a correct answer, but he's the Attorney General. He didn't make the case that he was upholding the rule of law. He was almost admitting that, yeah, this is a political job.
Here's the problem with that. The interview came from CBS this morning, and here is the full answer. Listen.
When history looks back on this decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history. But I think a fair history would say it was a good decision because it upheld the rule of law. It upheld the standards of the Department of Justice, and it undid what was an injustice.
Unbelievable. So Obama says last week that the rule of law is at risk. It is at risk. It is. But not for the reason that Barack Obama is saying the rule of law is at risk, but because we're about to start calling this whole FBI investigation OBAMAGATE. This now we know Barack Obama in the White House orchestrated much of this. He is the guy who set a lot of this in motion, and then on his last day in office said, okay, guys, we're going to keep these things quiet. You just keep going. I don't think you need to inform President Trump of any of these things. Just keep going. This is one of the worst things in a presidential transition I've ever heard, because they knew at the time that these charges were false. It's not like, hey, we might have a Russian spy. They knew at the time it was false. And documents and interviews now show that what the FBI did was clearly set him up. And they set him up by using people like Isikoff. They used people in the media to leak stories out, which would give them then the ability to say, oh, well, there's this charge out here. We've got to investigate. When they already knew the investigation showed nothing. Yeah, so the rule of law is at risk, but not for the reasons that Barack Obama and the news media will tell you. Next hour, I'm getting into the news media, and I'm going to show you how bad they have been recently. And ask you, at what point does America realize you cannot trust the press? You know, if they would have come out with collusion facts, and they would have actually, I mean, at the very beginning of this, when he just got into office, I thought there was a chance. I mean, I didn't understand it, but with people like Bannon advising him, I thought there was a chance that some Russians were infiltrating the Trump administration. Didn't happen. It didn't happen. And anyone within the sound of my voice, if you think that I wouldn't have reported on a Russian adversary infiltrating this administration or any administration, you're fooling yourself. I care about the country. They didn't have that information. They had the opposite information. But now our government, we find out, in collusion with the media, developed this entire story for 3 years after they knew it wasn't true. And now documents are missing from the intelligence community. Now, the intelligence committee was briefed by the FBI saying there was no collusion. So they were stunned, but remember, couldn't say anything out loud. They can't say anything outside of the, what is it called, the skiff? They have to remain silent. They can go to prison if they release anything into the public that they were briefed about in the skiff. So they couldn't say what the FBI was briefing. But this is why Nunes was saying, no, the FBI said there is no evidence. But then the media was saying high-level FBI people say that there's evidence. Well, that's different than the briefing, the secret highest-level briefing given to Congress by the FBI. Well, now, isn't it weird? All those documents held by the Democratic Party, they've suddenly disappeared. When they went to go back and get them, they're gone. This is not good. We are at a crossroads. And I tell you, I think the coronavirus may have been a blessing in disguise should we choose to make it one. And the reason why I say it's a blessing in disguise is at least I know what's important in my life. I don't know about you, but I'm not looking forward to going back to work. I know a lot of people are because, they don't like their family or, they just, whatever. There's lots of reasons. And some of them very good and some of them sad. But I like being around my family. I, for the very first time in my life, feel like my family is fully connected to each other. I feel like I know it's important. I know that it's local, that everything that matters to me is all around me, and those are the things that I can affect. And if we and I also know what's important nationally, and what's important nationally is the Bill of Rights. You have certain rights. And as I see these rights going away and being infringed on left and right, I think to myself, if America is smart, they will recognize the blessing this is, because I could talk about the Bill of Rights till I'm blue in the face. And before coronavirus, everybody would say, well, what rights are you losing? It's not that. Well, these rights are going away. We now have evidence. And I think enough people are spooked by what is happening with tech, the media, and government, that maybe we have a chance of waking up and saving the republic. But it's going to require all of us. And, there's bigger fish to fry. Stu said today, I told him, I said, I want to start on what I did on Friday night on Blaze TV. The show that we did, it was absolutely spine-tingling. I couldn't believe I was having the conversation. And if you watch this, I think you probably felt the same way. And Friday, I positioned this show on UFOs as, a fun kind of, let's distract ourselves with it. As Stu said today, perhaps this should be the lead story. And I think he's right. It seems
like it would have been in any other time, right? I mean, I know there's so much other stuff going on right now, but this is like the stuff that would lead news broadcasts seemingly for a very long time in any other circumstance.
For a very long time. What happened last week, I didn't even understand until I started talking to, these are officials. This was I think he was the director of the DIA, director of intelligence under Clinton and Bush. then the guy who actually was appointed by Petraeus to run the investigation beginning in 2006. And what I loved is the question that Petraeus asked him was, what do you think of UFOs? And that was the beginning of the job interview. And he said, are you serious? And he said, yeah, what do you think of UFOs? And he said, I don't think of UFOs. I think that other people can waste their time thinking about UFOs. I have no opinion. Petraeus said, perfect. You're the guy to run this. So he doesn't come in as a believer. And what they explained to me right off the bat was this last week, is really important. For the first time, the Pentagon has officially come out and made a few declarations. And when you actually hear them, it should be the lead story everywhere because something is changing. And there's so much change